Hello there, welcome to another Rotterdam White Scars video. My name is Thijs, a.k.a. the Shamanpainter, and today I'll be showing you how to paint up a Stormcast Vindictor in the Hallowed Knights painting scheme in a bit more grimdark style. Before we start this video, I would like to apologize. Some parts are missing, but the missing steps will be explained during the steps that were filmed, and you still have a complete tutorial to paint yours in the Hallowed Knights painting scheme. So don't worry, stay tuned. So guys, the first thing I did was spray the entire model with some lead belcher spray from Games Workshop and made sure I covered all the areas. Sprayed it a couple times from underneath and also from above, so I could also get all the recesses. The first thing we're going to do is cover the entire model, well, at least all the metal parts, with black Templar contrast paint, making sure you get all those shadows in there. And this is also the part that we didn't film, so I'm gonna just tell you how I did the rest of the metal parts, because that's something that is missing from this video. After this was completely dried, I dry brushed it, and it's more like wet brushing, so you don't have such a dry brush, more like a rough dry brush with lead belcher, and then some stippling and dry brushing with Runefang steel to complete it all up, and little spots of weathering with Jakira orange, extremely diluted, and that was all I did with the steel. Unfortunately, this part was a bit corrupt, so luckily there's a big chunk of video me covering the entire model with black Templar contrast paint, so this will help out a lot, I guess. So we're now going to focus on all the other parts. I did alloy tech blue on the shoulder pad and the shield, and now I'm base coating all the leather parts with some Runefang brown. After we finished base coating these parts, we will put some Telesur blue contrast paint on the shoulder pads and shield, and some Agrax Earthshade on the Runefang brown parts. Here you can also see that the metallics have been finished, and it's quite clear that you get a nice sheen and the nice dull areas with the weathered effect, the grim dark effect that we wanted to achieve. So Tusker Fur is your friend when it comes to red parts. So most of the colored parts on the model will be covered with a quite light base color, because we'll be using contrast paints to finish them up. Contrast paints will make them much darker and create all the necessary shadows. The same with the cloth parts and the boots. Between the armor plates, they will be painted with some Mechanica Standard Grey, because in the end they will be black. You could have also done this before we painted the metallic parts, because it's the same contrast paints as the metallic parts. But that's something, yeah, I figured out after finishing this model. So as you can see, I also didn't paint the straps yet on the inside of the arm, because those will be painted later on with a little touch of brown. Now we're gonna tidy up the blue parts with some 1000 Suns blue. For this model, I went for a bit more turquoise color instead of a fresh blue, because I would like to keep this model a bit more grim dark, a little bit less tidy than normal, more battle worn and more dark and dirty. I applied quite a large highlight, but with diluted paint, because I know I will also be painting 2 more highlights on these parts, so it's okay to be a bit more to use a bit more broader strokes in this phase. Also make sure you get a little dab of very diluted 1000 Suns blue on the raised parts of the domed area of the shoulder pads, because that will be a little sheen. And then the next step will be Ahriman blue or Allotic blue. Can't quite remember. both can work though. I think it was Aloytic blue, to refer to the more bluer tones in there, because we don't want to go for turquoise. That's too much green for our taste. And on the back side of the model I used the side of the brush to actually get a sharp edge highlight on there, and also a smaller diluted dot of paint on the shiny spots. It's a really easy color scheme to paint, but it's, we use Baharot blue for the final highlight, and that will finish up the blue parts of this model. I think the color scheme is really great, especially when you're starting out with this hobby, or if you want to paint an army fast, and it really stands out in the crowd when you compare to all the other golden boys that paint up their Sigmarite army completely with gold or bronze or black or warm colors. Besides silver, you don't see a lot of silver Stormcast, so that's always pretty good to see. And also a bit more grimdark's also nice for a change. So the Agrax Earthshade was long dried up on the model, the brown parts, the leather parts. So we just will be tidying up the base color again with some Mornfang brown. Also the straps. And as you can see, the Tuskor fur was also painted with some voluptuous pink. And then we're gonna do a second highlight with scrag brown on the leather parts, and also be a bit grungy, so little stripes and dots and scratches to keep it a bit more entertaining, I guess. And some angles you can really see the armor has a really good shine to it, and also has a fair amount of dull points in it. Some Deathclaw brown to finish up the last highlights on the leather parts. More scratches, more markings, more weathered look. Yeah, I really like the combination from Mornfang brown, Scrag brown, Deathclaw brown. It's a proved concept, so to say. It's really working out every time I use this for leather parts. Now we're gonna get in there with some Ashen Grey. That's a more, it's a Skaven color. It's called Ashen for a reason. It's a bit more brownish grey. Also for the weathered look on the cloth parts, and to make it stand out a bit more from the greyish tones of the armor, to give it a bit more color. If you use Dawnstone and Administratum Grey, the Administratum Grey is still the last color, then you would have achieved a much more cleaner effect, but also lost a lot of contrast between the armor plates and the black cloth, I think. Especially because we use Black Templar contrast paints to start out with, so it's the same color that we used for the cloth part, so we have to differentiate a bit more than we normally do between the parts. So once that's done, it's time for some more detailing, because the majority is already done. Use some Tuskor fur. Sometimes I prefer the air paint, sometimes I prefer the normal paint, especially for small dots, or if you want to really thin down your paints, air paint can be really a great way to do these kind of things. And just touch up the little straps that go around his blade handle. Don't do it too much, otherwise you will create too much pink effect on these parts. Well, once that's done, you're going to come back with some Emperor's Children. And Emperor's Children will be it will be a very pink color, so please be careful. Just a small dot on every little strap will be more than fine. Don't overdo it. I think that I almost overdid it right here, because I chose the lazy way out with the side of my brush, but I think it still worked out in the end. It was very close to being too much. I really like the contrast between the red purple handle and the blue shield and shoulder pads. It really stands out on the model. I'm gonna use some Wraithbone to color in the little scroll on the side of his belt. And I'm gonna really simplify this part. We also going to be using some Wraithbone on the lightning marks. This might take a couple steps, guys. This is not just one and done. You probably have to do this 2 or 3 times to fully cover all the bits of heraldry and stuff. Also with the cloth on the back, it also takes a couple times. And just take your time. Wait for it to be dry, otherwise you'll get some pooling and then it will mess up your blue shield because that's already finished. So make sure you don't get back in there and just keep on painting layer after layer. Also with the lightning mark on the shoulder pad. See, this is the 3rd time we will be passing the scroll, but it will be worthwhile because we have to keep this clean. Because we're not going to do another layer on this at all. Just going to do some skeleton horde on the scroll, some contrast paints, and we're going to create some purposeful pooling in the lettering. No, see, I wasn't done with the Wraithbone at all. Especially when you're painting over the blue parts, it's just. There are better parts of the model that create much more joy in painting this. This will be the 3rd model that I've painted from the Vindictors. This 3 times the same model, and every time those little lightning bolts give me the creeps. Yeah, I also paint the front side of the scroll and create some pooling in the letters. So they get a lot of contrast. Some Aethermatic Blue, which is an awesome color. It's really more like a tone than it is a contrast paint, because it doesn't create a lot of contrast at all. It's a very diluted pastel color that creates oxidized or electrifying look, but it works out great. Use it in all the markings that we've painted Wraithbone. Just keep it easy. So when that's done, this will be the final result. I've also put some tufts on the base and repainted the base back to some sandy color. And that's how you paint a grimdark version of the Vindictors in the Hallowed Knights painting scheme. Thank you for watching. Please like this video and maybe subscribe. And if you consider, please join our Patreon. See you next time.